about 900,000 will receive national minimum wage of 23 rands an hour from 19 rands. It is the ANC government that has been able to give us that. So we're saying as the CEC, let us accept the responsibility at the same time as we embrace the achievement, but we must also take responsibility for our failures. Because only if we acknowledge them, we will be able to correct ourselves. We welcome, President, the release of the first part of the Zondo Commission into state capture. We are also saying as a federation, asifuni ukuyibona this Zondo Commission report ifana neSereti Commission on Arms Deal. Because almost 1 billion was spent on Zondo Commission. Just printing the report, they have spent 1.5 million, which is taxpayers' money. The recommendation must be implemented with no failure. President, we are saying, as I said, ours is not an easy task. So if we continue where we are, we stand two things. If we don't change, if we don't rebuild, 2024 is going to be a difficult year for us. If we rebuild the African National Congress, if we unite the alliance, 2024 will mark another victory of the African National Congress. Today we are saying we're celebrating the 110 years. This is the day to reflect. This is the day to rebuild. This is the day to reconnect with our people. This is the day to put our peoples first and ensure that people are trusting ourselves as the alliance again. Happy revolutionary birthday to the African National Congress, COSATU National Congress. COSATU is here. We are not out of the alliance. We shall remain to ensure that the African National Congress, the alliance, is reconfigured so that South Africa can achieve what was agreed to in 1912. Thank you very much.
Run a program we're going to give General Secretary of Communist Party, Comrade Braden Zimande. We've cut his time. We've given COSATU 10 minutes, we'll give the party 3 minutes. Now, that is my discretion, you know. Better must take 3 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Amandla! Viva the African National Congress! Viva! Viva SACP! Viva! Viva COSATU! Viva! Amandla! Comrade President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, President of the ANC and the Republic, and members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, the President of COSATU, Comrade Zinge Swalosi, and the leadership of the Alliance present here, and those watching us from various places, members of the Diplomatic Corps and the media, comrades all. On behalf of the Central Committee of the SACP and our membership, I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the ANC on its milestone of its 110th founding anniversary. The history of our democratic victory against colonial and apartheid oppression, and that of the development and revolutionary role of the ANC are inextricably linked. In other words, to understand how the liberation struggle achieved the democratic breakthrough of 1994, one needs to appreciate the outstanding leadership role played by the African National Congress. In the forefront of the South African liberation movement was the Tripartite Alliance, supported by formations of the Mass Democratic Movement and the Progressive Trade Union Movement. One of the greatest achievements of the ANC from the onset was its ability to unite the African majority and black people generally against colonial and apartheid oppression. The ANC managed to roll back any regressive tendencies like tribalism, narrow provincialism, and ethnically based mobilization. As the South African Communist Party, we expect the ANC to continue to play this role of uniting Africans in particular and black people generally as the foundation upon which to build a non-racial society. And it is only the African National Congress which is capable of leading this effort. No other organization will be able to do this. And we dare not forget this task. The main priority facing the ANC and our country at the moment is that of transforming the economy to create jobs and sustainable livelihoods, including supporting small businesses and cooperatives, as part of realizing that powerful slogan of the ANC, a better life for all. The key challenge for our economy is youth unemployment. Let us make 2022 to be the year we begin to see some improvements in our economy and the job situation. The SACP remains firmly of the view that neither state capture nor neoliberalism will address the socio-economic challenges facing our country. This is because state capture enriches those who steal from the state, and neoliberalism redistributes wealth away from the workers and the poor to those who are already wealthy. As the first organization to expose and call the phenomenon of state capture what it is, and also called for the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate this rot and decay, we welcome the release of the first part of the inquiry into state capture report. Of course, we would have liked the release of the entire report, but we commend our president, Comrade Ramaphosa, for his decision to have the report publicly released after receiving it, so that there is no speculation. Everybody can read the report for himself or herself. But comrades, we must know that our detractors will seek to use this report to attack the ANC, our alliance, and our government. Let us as an alliance and government use this report to deal a decisive blow to state capture and the theft of public resources. We are also saying private corporations that have been part of state capture must just not receive light treatment. They must also be called to account, including being prosecuted. It's of no use to only punish public servants and senior officials of the SOEs and leave the corrupt element in the private sector unattended to. Comrades, however, if we are to effectively tackle state capture, we do need to clean up our state security system, especially those parts of it that have been corrupted together with state capture. But as the ANC and as a movement, we must remember that that is necessary but not enough. We have to ask ourselves the question, what kind of an ANC cadre do we need, both in the ANC and in the state, including the ideological and moral outlook of such cadres? Factionalism is another scourge we have to fight and completely root out of our movement. This is very important for our renewal. But it is also clear to the SACP that the scourge of factionalism is now mainly based on control over resources. You often have a grouping, comes together as a faction, controls the structures of the organization, grabs municipal budgets, and distribute patronage through jobs and tenders. And that is corrupt. What is clear to us is that the struggle against factionalism must also be accompanied by the struggle against corruption, both within and outside our own ranks. We also want to say, as the SACP, one of the main tasks we have is to defeat counter-revolution, comrade. We must know every revolution tends to call upon counter-revolution. The problem with ours now is that part of this counter-revolution is emerging from inside our own ranks. And for instance, we are saying, much as Comrade President, we must give your law enforcement agencies the chance to investigate fully the July counter-revolution last year, the torching of our parliament. But as the SACP, we smell a rat. We are very suspicious that there is a connection between the July 21 offensive and the torching of our parliament. But we will give the state-owned agencies to investigate. But kunesandla semfene la ikhona into egcitshwe phansi, ikhona into ekhona okufunakala ukuthi siyisukumele siyibheke. That is why when we stand here, we say to our glorious African National Congress, please lead an effort to unite all progressive forces in the country and to unite all Democrats in our country to defend the gains since 1994. We must also, comrades, learn appropriate lessons from our local government elections. Our people love the ANC, but at the same time, as Comrade Zingi was saying, they are angry against corruption. They are angry against our failure to do very basic things, filling up the potholes, cleaning the areas that we are actually staying in, provision of basic services. Those things that we can do which we are not doing, our people are angry about that. And we are saying to all the structures, not just of the ANC, but of the alliance, let us unite to listen to the voice of our people. They gave us tough love by not going out to vote for us. As I move towards ending, we must also unite our alliance and let all those who think the ANC and the alliance can move forward in different directions to know that this is a dangerous path. Going our separate ways is what our enemies have long wanted to achieve, and let us not give them that, as we will all be defeated. Let us reconfigure and strengthen the alliance. As I end this year, all our three formations are going to their Congress. The SACP in July, COSATU in September, and the ANC in. Now, these platforms, we must make sure that we use them to deal with the challenges that face us and come up with concrete suggestions and not allow factionalists to divert us. In all this task, Comrade Chair, the African National Congress will find a dependable ally in the South Africa. Siyabonga. Mandla.
Comrade Nzimande, uri kungalotlo. Uri kungalotlo. Kungalotlo. Kunokimpuku. Yeah. Kungalotlo. Asuthu saburwa kungatweba. Thank you very much, Comrade Blade and Comrade Losi. We can only acknowledge that we've received 2 messages of support, one from the Communist Party of China and another from the Communist Party of Cuba. Those are the 2 parties that have written us messages of support. Now, thank you very much. We are going to have a song, a revolutionary song. Who is about Lionel? Lionel, can you take a seat?
Two. Amandla! Aluta! Amandla! Amandla! Ukasikhoni ANC ukasikhoni! Ukasikhoni ANC ukasikhoni! Iyabusha ANC iyabusha! Pili kaRamaphosa pili!
Oliver Tambo, Santa Sa. 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 Oliver Tambo. Santa Sa, Oliver Tambo, Santa Sa,
Amandla, now, in terms of the powers vested in me, I can't wait for 1 o'clock. I'm calling the president to the podium to address us on January 8th. I deliver NEC report and statement of January 8th. Comrade President. Anifake ingoma, kanifake ingoma. Awufake ingoma. No, leave the cake. Leave the cake. Leave the cake.
Amandla. Amandla. Matla. Matla. Matimba. Matimba. Manda. Manda. Dimasiar. Inhlekan. Dumelang. Molweni. Sanbonan. Lochani. Huyemeda. Comrade National Chairperson, Gwede Samson Mantashe. Comrade Deputy President, Comrade David Dabede Mabuza, national officials of the African National Congress, members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, Comrade Stan Matabata, the chairperson of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress in the Limpopo province where we are, Comrade Blade Nzimande, the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, other leaders of the SACP, Comrade Zingi Swalosi, the President of the Congress of South African Trade Unions, Comrade Vatabile Dlamini, the President of the ANC Women's League, Comrade Nongeba Mshauli, the convener of the ANC Youth League National Task Team, Comrade Snooki Zigalala, the President of the ANC Veterans League, veterans and stalwarts of our movement here, the Dean of the Diplomatic Corps and representatives of foreign missions, leaders of fraternal parties and organizations, former liberation organizations or movements, the leaders of the religious sector, especially those who were able to offer prayers, Your Majesties, kings and traditional leaders of our people, comrades and friends and the people of South Africa. I'd like to thank the people of Limpopo for opening the gates and the doors of the province to enable the ANC to celebrate 110th year of existence. Ra le leboga. Ka Sepedi ba re le ile la kgona ho bofa dintja gore baeng ba kene. Ra leboga re a lemoa ke dintja. E hlile dintja ne di ntse di tsamaya le rena go le monate fela provinceng e kaofela. Ra leboga. O lumilweng ke ntja ke re atle mo nna ka bane le nna ke ngaka ka lenyalo nkana ka o bona gore go thusa bjang. The leadership of our alliance was able to go to all the regions in our province. All of them, we crisscrossed the length and the breadth of the province. And we are grateful that we were able to interact with our people and get to hear their thoughts and their views. We thank the religious leaders, the traditional leaders, as we visited their various palaces, as we visited the various places of worship. We'd like to thank the business leaders and organizations as we also interacted with them and exchanged views and thoughts with them, as well as the professional sector, the sports sector, and many others, and of course, the media as well. We thank you not only for opening the doors, but your thoughts to us, and for forthrightly putting your suggestions and your views forward. In the Sekhukhune region, I was privileged to hear the thoughts of some young people, some of whom were suggesting to the National Executive Committee what should go into the January 8th statement. And others were a lot more ambitious and forward-looking as they said what should go into the State of the Nation address. And others even went further to say what should go into the budget that will be presented by Comrade Godongwana. So it's been a week and a few days of real extensive discussions, consultations. It proves the correctness of the decision that was taken by the National Executive Committee that prior to January 8th, whichever province has been allocated the honor of organizing the birthday of our movement, we should spend time engaging with our people. And in many ways, this process that we went through was the continuation of the pilgrimage that we started in 2018, when we went to a number of places, including the graves and the homes of the founding leaders of the movement. It was wonderful to go to various royal houses here in this province, as well as homes of leaders who have departed, like Comrade John Gadimeng. And when we were told that right in 1912, a number of our traditional leaders were present in Mangaung when the African National Congress formed, it was truly humbling to continue seeing the continued commitment of families, regions, to the African National Congress spanning over 110 years. For families about Babang, di ntse di tshwarane le wona mokgatlo o go tloga ka 1912 go be go fitlhe mamotla re tshwanetse re ipotse gore rena ba batlang go kgathala re tla ba re kgathatswa ke eng na ba bang ba dutse ba tshwere mokgatlo o for more than 100 years. It was very humbling to see that. One of the outstanding events that happened also during this process was the Peter Mokaba Memorial Lecture organized by the ANC Youth League. Yesterday, I saw visions of the re-emergence of the ANC Youth League. There are clear signs that the Youth League is rising. I saw the enthusiasm of young people who had come in their large numbers to a point where we could not accommodate them in the hall that the leadership of the Youth League had organized, and it had to be outside, and they were there in their large numbers. Another event which became oversubscribed was the Lillian Matabanengoi Memorial Lecture, which had to be postponed. The oversubscription in terms of attendance of that lecture is a clear sign itself that the Women's League in this province is definitely alive without any doubt. And we'd like to thank the leadership of the ANC Women's League that once the numbers had overrun the compliance numbers, they were decisive enough to say that the event should be postponed. So I will be back to address that memorial lecture because it is important that we should do so. Yes, the national leadership of both the party and COSATU has been on the ground. They've been crisscrossing the length and the breadth of this province, interacting not only with their members, but with members and structures of our movement. We'd like to thank them for having spent a great deal of time through the various structures of their leadership. So we've had a really excellent build-up to this 110th birthday of the African National Congress. Great build-up, which has culminated in the National Executive Committee spending hours and hours going through many drafts of the statement of the ANC on the birthday of the African National Congress, a précis of which I am now going to put forward. The ANC NEC has had to go up to 15 drafts just preparing this statement, because in doing so it has dealt with the current situation. It is exactly 50 years since Isitholandwe Siaparangwe, President Oliver Reginald Tambo delivered a January NEC statement commemorating the 60th anniversary of the founding of the ANC. This anniversary takes place just a few days after a devastating fire swept through our parliament in Cape Town. The entire country has been shocked, outraged, and saddened by the destruction, because the institution of parliament is a repository of our democracy and a symbol of democratic stability of our people. For 28 years, our parliament has been a site of transformation. It's also been a site of empowering lawmaking and also a site of redress where we have worked together to overcome the legacy of our apartheid past. Although the buildings of Parliament have been extensively damaged, Parliament as an institution remains intact and will continue to express and give effect to the will of the people of South Africa. Parlamente isa le hona aya shwa. Ka hobane ke parlamente phelang mo dipelong tsa batho. On this occasion of the 110th anniversary of the formation of the ANC, we need to engage in a frank assessment of how far we have come during the past year in meeting the core mandate defined by the 54th National Conference. There are many developments that characterize this environment and which inform our program for the year ahead. These include COVID-19 pandemic, which is a global health crisis unlike any the world has ever seen in more than a century. In our own country, more than 92,000 lives have been lost to COVID-19 since the start of the pandemic. This has been a profoundly traumatic period in our national life, but not only in our national life, but in the lives of various families in our country, challenging us to give reassurance, to give leadership, inspiration, and to also give hope for the future to our people. Our economy has been severely damaged. Millions are without work, and today, more than ever before, rely on social support for survival. The rate of economic recovery, while better than anticipated, has not been sufficient, and the resources that are needed to address the challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality have largely been inadequate. At the same time, our experience of the pandemic has highlighted the sense of social solidarity, more critically, the need for all South Africans to join hands in a social compact to revive the economy and improve the quality of life of especially the poor in our country. The pandemic struck as we were launching concerted efforts to reposition our economy and attract much needed investment as we've been rebuilding the democratic state after years of state capture. Not only was state capture a systematic attempt at siphoning off public resources and funds, it also destroyed the capability of the state and led to the departure of capable people from public institutions as they resisted state capture. Some were fired, some were forced to resign, and some just gave up. Some were suspended for long periods, and they left. And those were the critical skills that our country was robbed of. People who knew the work, who knew the right things to do. But because state capture targeted them, because those who were perpetrating it knew that if they remove those people, it will be a lot easier to achieve their own ends. It also undermined our democratic state and threatened our program of social and economic transformation. As expected, the renewal that we have embarked on is being assailed at various levels by acts of institutional and social disruption. Let us, from the outset, make it clear that these desperate efforts that some are making will fail in the face of a united people resolved to protect South Africa's democratic gain. Ba ka se ke ba re tlhola, ba ka se ke ba tlhola batho ba South Africa. We must be forthright in recognizing and deal decisively with the reality that ANC structures are in a poor state themselves. Many of them are focused on internal organizational conflicts, factionalism, and furthering the self-interest of individual leaders, which results in the lack of service delivery to our people and the lack of addressing the aspirations of communities that they are meant to serve. These weaknesses were reflected in the results of the local government elections in November 2021. While the ANC received a clear mandate to govern in the overwhelming majority of municipalities in our country, our overall share of the national vote fell below 50% for the first time since the advent of democracy. Many citizens demonstrated their dissatisfaction with our movement and its performance by staying away from the polls. The movement must therefore undergo a fundamental and lasting process of renewal and rebuilding if it is to remain an effective and trusted agent of change. We must intensify our work to restore the relevance, the capability, the credibility of the ANC so that it continues to be a powerful force for transformation, a powerful force that will continue to be trusted by our people. As we do so, comrades, we must be clear that this whole process that the NEC and indeed our conference in Nasrec decided on will be a painful and protracted process. No resistance, even from our ranks, can force us to abandon the cause of truly being the ANC of the people. Ba rata kapa abarati, re tlo ntlafatsa ANC. Re etse yona ANC ela e batlwang ke setjhaba. We are on that path, much as in some quarters it will meet resistance, but it is a path and a journey that we've got to embark upon without any fail, without any retreat. In furtherance of our fundamental objective to create a better life for all, this January 8th statement sets out priorities for all ANC members and cadres that must underpin our work during 2022. Firstly, we must build a social compact to decisively address the big challenge of unemployment and poverty in our country. Working with all social partners, we must accelerate economic recovery and reconstruction and ensure that social services are provided to all citizens. Secondly, we must defend our democratic gains against attempts to undermine our constitutional order and destabilize our democracy. Thirdly, we must accelerate the fundamental renewal and rebuilding of the African National Congress so that it is more effective and trusted as an agent of change. Fourthly, we must build a capable developmental state with an effective ethical public service that drives the implementation of our country's transformative agenda. And fifthly, we must continue to work for a better Africa and a better world. On the first priority, comrade, the ANC urges government to conclude a social compact with all social partners on the measures to place our nation on a higher and a more inclusive growth path. The ANC takes this view that in the end, the economic recovery process has to be embarked upon by all social partners. It is not only the task of the ANC, nor the task of Labour, or the task of government. It is the task of all of us to build this social compact. Such a social compact must set out the obligations and commitments of all social partners, government, business, labor, and community, to decisively address our common national challenges of poverty and unemployment. The COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated our already precarious economic situation. In a short space of time, around 1.5 million people lost their jobs since the start of the pandemic, and the unemployment rate we now have is at its highest ever. Government invested heavily in providing additional and much needed social and economic relief measures in the face of this unprecedented public health crisis. Government poured billions into addressing the challenges that our country and our people were facing. The Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which was launched in October 2020, draws extensively from the movement's position as discussed and as engaged on as the Alliance and a number of other formations, and finally developed with our social partners at the NEDLAC level. Recognizing that it will take time for businesses to recover from the pandemic and begin to create jobs again, government implemented an employment stimulus program. In its first phase, this employment stimulus created more than 550,000 employment and livelihood support opportunities for many of our people. We will continue to implement public employment programs to support unemployed working-age adults and will work in consultation with organized labor and other social partners to develop these programs. The Social Relief of Distress Grant, to President 350 Randa, has provided vital support for the unemployed during the pandemic, reaching more than 10 million people and lifting 5 million of our people above the food poverty line. This has been a great initiative by government, which has given a lot of support to our people. Many of us would have thought, Hore, Bela Hobea 350 Ranta Mota Fuleng, Yale Lapa Lele Lapa, Into Enyan, Ikumeku Ribanu Votala, Bai Amukela Yomalile, Nahambi, Hibona Irinzongo, but it has assisted a lot of our people. There is therefore a clear need for some form of income support for unemployed in our country and poor South Africans, based on clear principles of affordability and sustainability. This, in many ways, is what is causing Comrade Ino Godongwane to lose more and more of his hair on his head, because as he thinks about the many challenges that face him as our Minister of Finance, including this very issue that is standing as a huge challenge, which we have to find some resources for. Central to the formation of the ANC 110 years ago was the need, comrades, to respond in a united manner to widespread colonial land dispossession. Redressing this historical injustice and returning land to the people is a critical component of the ANC's fight for social justice and the elimination of the vast inequalities created by apartheid. Such the land reform process that we need to embark upon will promote economic development for the benefit of all. The ANC will implement its resolution on the expropriation of land without compensation, despite the refusal of other parties in Parliament to support the proposed enactment of Section 25 of the Constitution as proposed. We will continue to implement a variety of programs and initiatives that will give effect to our land reform objective. So our work and our intentions in this regard have not stalled. We are going to continue with a variety of programs and initiatives to return land to our people. Climate change, comrades, presents a range of geopolitical, security and economic and social risks for our country and to the world. At the same time, a just transition to a low-carbon, ecologically friendly and socially sustainable economy presents opportunities to create jobs, inclusion and growth in sectors as renewable energy, grid construction, manufacturing of renewable components, battery storage, green vehicles, and the hydrogen economy as well. The success of our economic recovery depends to a large measure on our ability to effectively manage COVID-19, as this virus is likely to remain part of our lives for the foreseeable future. To enable our economy to return to full operation, we must urge everyone in our country who is not yet vaccinated to ensure that they are vaccinated as soon as possible. The ANC urges government to finalize a policy on the introduction of vaccine mandates for particular settings and activities as well. I would like to say, comrade, we have contracted COVID, and we have found for those who were vaccinated were able to navigate their way around COVID and to even survive COVID-19 because they were vaccinated. I am a witness to that, because when I contracted COVID, I went through quite a lot of health difficulties together with my wife, who also had tested positive. But because we were vaccinated, we were not hospitalized. We were able to recover. And medical people have told us that we were able to survive as they listened to our account of the symptoms, they said we were able to survive largely because we were vaccinated. Comrade Popi Ramatuba, the MEC of Health here in our province, was telling me exactly that yesterday. And she said, President, the fact that you were vaccinated was a great, great advantage for us, because from what you are telling me, if you had not been vaccinated, we could have lost you. So I urge all South Africans who have not yet been vaccinated, from experience, ari verote rio thabiwa. Ka arari motho o thabiwa, heli dwadze la COVID, lingasi kono u isa xibadela kana wa vuya wa dzama wa risiya. So let us take up the call to be vaccinated. Yesterday, I addressed the young people here in Polokwane. I asked a number of them. Some of them were not even wearing masks in a public event. Only about 50% were wearing masks, which I thanked them for, but others were not. But when I asked how many of them had been vaccinated, I found that only 40% or so had been vaccinated. So I continue to make the call that it is important for all of us to be vaccinated. Right now, some 40% of our people have been vaccinated. We had obviously hoped that many more would have been vaccinated, and I know that many other countries are struggling with vaccination hesitancy. But we can do better as South Africans, so I therefore urge that all of us who have not yet been vaccinated, let us go out in our great numbers, because the recovery of our economy is very much dependent on many of us being vaccinated. So the ANC also urges government to finalize a policy on the introduction of vaccine mandate. A number of other countries are moving in this direction, and we now need to give our people an incentive to go and be vaccinated, because that is the only defense and shield that we have for people not to be hospitalized and also not to die. The ANC supports the call made at the World Trade Organization to temporarily waive intellectual property rights on COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. We believe that such a waiver will allow the developing economy countries to develop their own vaccines and will lead to more equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. Once this is granted, here on the African continent, countries such as Senegal, countries such as Egypt, Rwanda, Kenya, including Morocco, and our own country, Nigeria as well, and Ghana, will be able to manufacture vaccines for the 1.3 billion people who live on our continent. At the same time, we must, comrades, say that all of us must continue adhering to the protocols that we have put in place to manage COVID-19. The ANC must take this time, and it does, salute all frontline workers for their commitment and their sacrifice in the fight against COVID-19. Araba opeleng diata for those who have made sacrifices. We remember all South Africans too who have succumbed to COVID-19 as we redouble our effort to contain this terrible pandemic. Our second priority, comrade, is to defend our democratic gain. The advent of democracy in 1994 and the progress that has been made thus far to build a united and inclusive nation over the last 28 years, stand as the greatest achievement of the people of South Africa. South Africa has, over the course of several years, experienced various actions that have the effect of subverting our constitutional democracy, its institutions, and the socio-economic advances that we have made. These actions include blatant acts of state capture and criminality described in the report of the Commission on Inquiry into State Capture, the Zondo report, the concerted campaign of public violence and destruction that took place in July last year, as well as ongoing acts of theft, destruction, and obstruction of infrastructure, including communication and logistical network. One of the resolutions of our 54th conference was to establish a judicial commission of inquiry into allegations of state capture. We welcome the submission and release of the first part of the Commission's report and look forward to the completion of the Commission's work by the end of February 2022. The ANC will support government in effecting the measures that are required to eliminate conditions and conduct that enable state capture and systemic corruption. We will put in place mechanisms to process any parts of the Commission's report that pertain to the organization, its employees or members. We will also look at how the Commission's recommendations can help to enhance the fundamental renewal and the rebuilding of our movement. We call on all South Africans to engage with the Commission's report and to be part of the national effort to put state capture behind us. We want this to be a national effort so that all of us are collectively involved in putting state capture behind us. We call on, therefore, on all of us to be part of the effort to build an ethical, capable developmental state and a society governed by the values of our democratic constitution and the rule of law. The security and stability of our country was directly challenged by the deliberate, coordinated, and well-planned incidents of violence and destruction that took place in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng in July last year. It is important once again to express our deepest condolences to the over 300 families who lost loved ones in the course of these tragic events. The ANC applauds the actions of ANC structures and ordinary South Africans who worked together through peaceful means to prevent the spread of violence and looting to many other parts that were targeted. We commend the members of the South African Police Service, the SANDF, and other state agencies who, under difficult conditions, worked to restore order and prevent further loss of life. These events underline the need to continuously guard against counter-revolution and work to ensure that counter-revolution cannot and must never find fertile ground here in South Africa. We call on government to strengthen the ability of the state to prevent and respond effectively to such development. Non-racialism is a fundamental principle of the ANC and lies at the heart of our objective to build a South African nation with a common patriotism and loyalty in which the cultural, linguistic and religious diversity of the people is recognized. And as Comrade Leighton Nzimande, General Secretary of the SACP, said, it is only the African National Congress that can ensure that this objective is achieved. No other organization in our country can do so. This is an ideal that many people have struggled for and died for. Sadly, this principle is being eroded both in our organization and in broader society. A painful example of this retrogressive tendency was the racism and prejudice manifest in the tragic events that occurred in eThekwini during the outbreak of the violence in July. We pass our condolences to those of our compatriots who lost their lives needlessly during those events in Phoenix, which had racial undertones. We must unite the broadest cross-section of our people, in opposition to social ills, and opposition rather, to social ills such as racism and other forms of prejudice. The ANC must do significantly more to ensure that non-sexism becomes a lived reality in our country. All manifestations and consequences of patriarchy, of toxic masculinity, from the feminization of poverty, physical and psychological abuse, and undermining of self-confidence to the exclusion of women from positions of authority, leadership, and power must be eliminated. Women and children in South Africa continue to be among the worst affected by fear, intimidation, and violence. Our efforts to eradicate gender-based violence are not sufficient to deal with the extent of this scourge. We must move with greater agency to close gaps in the criminal justice system. We must strengthen support to survivors and effectively implement prevention efforts. We urge members of society, especially men and boys, to become better allies in the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. Our third priority is to accelerate the fundamental renewal and the rebuilding of the African National Congress. A strong, effective, and united ANC is crucial to the effort to build a united, non-sexist, non-racial, democratic, and prosperous South Africa. When the Liberation Movement, governing party and one of the strongest forces for social and economic transformation, is divided and ineffective, the whole country suffers. All genuine leaders and members of the ANC are agreed on the need for thoroughgoing renewal and rebuilding of the African National Congress. The task of fundamental renewal is made more urgent by the loss of popular standing, support, and trust that our movement has experienced over several years. The 54th conference asserted that renewal is about building the ANC's resilience, enhancing its transformative and governance capacity, and its ability to adapt to changing situations so that it can continue to organize and to lead our people. Renewal and rebuilding will take time, and it will also take a lot of diligent work. There will be successes, but there will also be setbacks, and we should expect and confront resistance from those who may well be opposed to renewal. We should endure the pain that this entails, and ultimately, we will emerge as an organization better placed to serve the people of South Africa. This calls, comrades, for a return to revolutionary discipline. It also calls for strict adherence to the culture of democratic centralism. And this means that once the organization has made a decision, members must abide by that decision. Once upper structures, discipline once upper structures have pronounced and decided on matters, whether they are right or wrong, lower structures are bound to act in accordance with such decisions and pronouncements. That is how the African National Congress has always worked. Departure from this practice constitutes indiscipline, and this is what we need to root out. Let there be no misunderstanding, comrades. We must also build unity within our movement. But we should not misunderstand that building unity is building unity at all costs, to the detriment and to the disregard of the fundamental principles of the African National Congress. Nor does it mean unity in defense of wrong or corrupt practices. Unity is tshwanetse empa ibe unity that is based on principle. Iskaba unity just for the sake ya hore go tswelle pele le the acts of corruption. While the ANC has begun to give effect to these resolutions aimed at restoring the standing and integrity of our organization, we must all agree that we need to do much more. One of the areas in which the ANC has taken clear action is to require that members who are formally charged with acts of corruption and other serious charges must immediately step aside from all leadership positions in the ANC, in our legislatures or other government structures, pending the finalization of their matters. To provide sharper focus to renewal and rebuilding of the movement, the National Executive Committee has decided to set up a commission to develop a clear roadmap for the movement towards the 120th anniversary of the African National Congress in 2032. This ANC Renewal Commission will be tasked to develop a clear vision of 2032, which described the desired state of the country and the ANC in 10 years' time. It will develop a roadmap towards Vision 2032 for adoption at the 55th National Conference in December 2022. Comrades, our fourth priority is to build a capable developmental state for effective service delivery. The developmental state should guide economic development and effectively use state resources to meet the needs of our people. Our developmental state must be capable of leading, guiding, and mobilizing all social partners towards achieving national objectives and goals. There must be sufficient capacity in the public service to deliver all the basic needs that our people require, such as health, housing, education, and other government services. We will continue to implement a range of measures strengthen local government. And this time round, the focus on local government is going to be greater and it's going to be much more focused, and we will utilize our various structures for continued evaluation as well as assessment of the work that we do in our local government. And this includes the mechanisms we have put in place to choose capable comrades as councillors, as mayors, and senior office bearers with the requisite knowledge, with the requisite skills and experience to serve our community. In addressing people's most pressing concerns, the ANC will work to ensure that all residents in municipalities where we govern have reliable and affordable electricity, water, and sanitation. We will serve as an effective opposition in municipalities where we do not govern and ensure that the council gives attention to the concerns of the residents. As a governing party at national level, we will work with provinces and municipalities on a massive campaign to ensure construction and maintenance of water and sanitation infrastructure. Wherever I went in the province in the past few days, the issue of roads, infrastructure, and water was raised continuously. And this is what we are going to be giving attention to from national to provincial and local government level. Is it possible to be done? The answer is yes. We need to be more focused, conserve our resources, ensure that acts of corruption are eliminated, and that whenever we pay for any form of infrastructure, we don't overpay, we are not overcharged, and there are no people who are going to siphon the public resources that should go to those infrastructure programs. That is what we are going to be focusing on. We are also going to eliminate unspeakable indignity and failure that continues to dog communities where our people live, where there's shortage of sanitation and water. Through the district development model, we are aligning the work of national, provincial, and local government to ensure that planning and budgeting is properly coordinated and service is properly improved. The ANC supports the establishment of the Border Management Authority, which has now been established, which we believe will contribute significantly to improving security on our borders and management of immigration in our country. We urge government to publish the final critical skills list and to finalize legislation providing certain occupations and businesses that must be set aside for South Africa. Our fifth priority is to continue to work for a better Africa and a better world. The ANC is committed to advance the cause of national liberation, development, world peace, disarmament, environmentally sustainable development, and accordingly the ANC will continue to play an active role in mobilizing progressive forces globally, strengthening our relations with progressive organizations, including former liberation movements, and engaging in campaigns of solidarity and the attainment of better and more just world. The ANC will focus international work on peace, development, and reconstruction on the continent. We will play a stronger role in establishing and sustaining party-to-party links in countries that are striving to entrench democracy. We support ongoing efforts to find African solutions to African problems in resolving the conflicts in Mozambique, in the Cabo Delgado area, in Lesotho, in the Kingdom of Eswatini, in the Sudan, and in Ethiopia. We must continue to pursue the reform of the United Nations and Security Council. The ANC repeats its condemnation of ongoing illegal settlements and state-sponsored settler violence against Palestinians and threats of illegally annexing more Palestinian land, including on the Golan Heights. Our support for the people of Cuba remains unwavering, and we urge the United States to lift all remaining restrictions and re-engage with the Cuban government to normalize relations between the two nations. We reiterate our long-standing solidarity with the Sahrawi Republic and the Polisario Front. The ANC notes with concern the recent developments that have necessitated the people of the Sahrawi Republic resuming their armed struggle in response to renewed incursions and attacks by Morocco. In line with our priorities for the year, all ANC structures have a number of priorities to undertake for 2022. Our first task, comrades, is to work for the fundamental renewal and rebuilding of the movement. That is a task that all of us, through our various structures, must embrace and take up. We must continue to work for the restoration of the integrity of the ANC so that we earn the confidence and the respect of South Africa. The ANC will continue to strengthen organizational discipline and address misbehavior and corruption within our ranks. Our principal program to implement the step-aside rule will continue. We must build and strengthen ANC branches through clear programs of action, which should include, for instance, political education of branch members on the aims and objectives of the ANC, the duties of ANC members, the role of ANC branches, and key policy positions of the African National Congress. Secondly, an annual program of community outreach, which includes, by every branch, the active participation of branch members in school governing bodies, community policing forums, civic associations, sports bodies, ward committees, and other organs of community life to promote the ANC's transformation agenda at local level. Another important task is to have a program to support our ward councillors and ward committees to solve community problems and hold regular report-back meetings to keep community members informed on progress with regard to issues of service delivery, as well as challenges that members of our community face. Another important task that must be taken up by our branches is gender empowerment, making sure that we rid our own structure and community of patriarchy, and that we empower the women of our country, and we make sure that gender-based violence and femicide in the communities where we operate as branches is eliminated. We must also enable, another important task, is to enable young people to play key roles in the leadership positions of our movement and empower young people to be able to, yes, be the true leaders of tomorrow, enabling them to occupy key positions of leadership. Our second task is to mobilize social partners to urgently finalize the social compact that I was talking about to reduce unemployment, poverty, and inequality. This must be seen as a task that must be taken up also by the African National Congress. Structures of the ANC must ensure that all partners, social partners including business, labor, and civil society, forge this compact to deal decisively with economic exclusion, poverty, unemployment, and inequality. All municipalities working in the context of the district development model must develop clear local economic development plans that focus on the competitive advantage of different regions of our country in areas such as tourism, agriculture, agro-processing, manufacturing, and mining. ANC structures must actively campaign against local forums that hold infrastructure and development projects to ransom for tenders and jobs. It is the task of ANC structures to do so. ANC branches, comrades, must not sit by when structures such as Amadelukbona create a lot of havoc where our branches operate and terrorize businesses and take over infrastructure programs. It is the ANC branch that must take up that struggle together with our other structures at the regional and provincial level. We cannot and should not be neutralized and even be defeated by such structures that are perpetrating illegal activities, particularly because some of those who participate in this forums are members of various communities that our people live in, where our branches operate in. Our third task is to defend the gains of our democracy so that national democratic revolution is not undermined. The ANC Constitution enjoins us to defend the democratic gains of the people and to advance towards a society in which government is freely chosen by the people of our country. In pursuance of this objective, ANC structures must accelerate and intensify the renewal and rebuilding of the ANC and act decisively to ensure that those who are guilty of corruption, ill discipline, and factionalism and undermining democracy find no home in the African National Congress. And comrades, this is an important issue. Sometimes we tolerate people who perpetrate acts of indiscipline, and we close a blind eye to indiscipline that is blatant, that is perpetrated in our presence, and we look the other way. Acts of indiscipline, comrades, must be acted on with immediate effect without any fear or favor. Sometimes we even hear in ANC meetings where someone stands up and assaults a female member of the African National Congress. And we as a structure close a blind eye and do not take any action immediately against such members. And I am saying that such acts and other acts of indiscipline must be a thing of the past if we want to be an organization that is effective, we must act against indiscipline. Motho tshwantse gore a tsebe gore ha entse ntho e tswileng tseleng. They have defined themselves outside of the African National Congress. O te tsebe wena, ka bo wena gore once you have done something like that, and I even made an example the other day, ke re hanka emella ka beta comrade Nomvula Kampama, really meeting kapo really kae. I must know gore a ke sa le member ya ANC. I must know that. If in an ANC meeting, ke sa kwane le national chairperson, be ke monka ka di face, be re tshwarana ka di washing, I must immediately know gore go fedile ka nna go ANC. A ke sa le member ya ANC. Hanka utswa tšhelete ya setšhaba, ke tshwantse ke te tsebe gore ka nnete monyako o bulegile, a ke sa le member ya ANC. So comrades, we must be clear about the issue of discipline. We must become a disciplined organization. Re tsebe gore there are certain things that cannot be done. There are certain things that the African National Congress is never going to tolerate. That there are certain things which once you have done, wena ka bo wena o tipulele monyako, ore awa ke sentse ke atoa, a ke sa le motho wa mo. That is what we should inculcate as a culture amongst us. And I know sometimes we weaken, sometimes we flag, sometimes, yes, there's resistance and there's slow movement. That is the nature of organizations. But our renewal process means that, comrades, we must redouble. ANCA yabo John Langalebale Dube, ANCA yabo Walter Sisulu, yabo Mama Lillian Goy, Arekek Annete Rein Chafatse. Let us cleanse the African National Congress and make the ANC the home of our people once again. Comrades, Kionantwe, which is making people to move away from us. Kaobani, we tolerate indiscipline. For anybody, and then we allow it to go on. And people look at that. They look at that and say, what type of people are these? What type of an organization is this, where these types of things are tolerated? So I am saying, as far as we are concerned, as the NEC, and as far as I am concerned as well as President, Gary, this time round, comrades, acts of indiscipline, we must act on them. We have to act on them. We better excise that finger rather than in the end have that rotting finger completely poison the whole body. That is what the African National Congress needs to do. So, comrades, if we can do that, if we can achieve that, we will endear ourselves to our communities. Our people will see that we are serious about rebuilding the ANC. So, therefore, we need to be seen to be serious about the process of rebuilding, repositioning, and renewing the ANC. Our branches must be deeply rooted in communities and play a leading role in the development of an active, informed, and politically conscious citizenry, capable of acting as the bulwark against any effort to undermine the gains of our democracy. We must work tirelessly to ensure maximum unity of our alliance and all progressive forces. We must strengthen the alliance. We must, yes, reconfigure our alliance so that it works better. I'd like to thank the General Secretary of the SACP, the President of COSATU, for delivering these very powerful and positive messages on the birthday of the ANC. Ke a le leboga. Mamo Takaneti, the messages that you delivered are the types that will strengthen us. As in the previous messages did not. I'm saying these ones start today are very, very forward-looking and revolutionary messages. Thank you very much for that. Aiba, if we were going to cut the cake further to the PC, I was going to reserve a very big piece for both of you. Next time, make it a nice ANC cake. All members must support the efforts by the democratic government to restructure and reform our law enforcement agencies to ensure that they effectively discharge their mandate to defend our constitutional democracy professionally, independently, and without any fear or favor. We are in the process of reforming our law enforcement agencies, our security sector, so that it is better positioned to defend the gains of our democracy. We must be proud that these are the people, men and women, who are going to defend this democracy that our people fought for. Our fourth task is to promote nation building and progressive values. ANC structures at every level must work to entrench progressive values such as non-racialism, non-sexism, and respect for human rights and democracy. We must lead popular campaigns for the eradication of backward tendencies such as tribalism, patriarchy, and homophobia. The ANC must continue to actively campaign against gender-based violence and child abuse and ensure perpetrators face the full might of the law. Yesterday, as I addressed the Youth League, I said, working together with SASCO, we must see the ANC Youth League active in our campuses to ensure that gender-based violence that is often taking place in our campuses is brought to an end. The rape against female students in our campuses is brought to an end. Our campuses must be a repository of knowledge dissemination rather than abuse against women and children. We must continuously raise awareness of the impact of gender-based violence on individuals, families, and communities. Consistent efforts must be made to support victims and survivors of gender-based violence and hold perpetrators, no matter who they are, to account. Our fifth task is to address social ills such as alcohol and drug abuse. Communities must work with government to ensure the establishment of sufficient support and diversionary programs available for at-risk youth through more community, recreational, sport, and educational facilities. ANC structures must lead these efforts, as must run education and awareness programs about the dangers of substance abuse. Our sixth task, comrades, is to promote vaccination against COVID-19. Structures of the ANC and the broader democratic movement must lead campaigns to disseminate more and accurate information about COVID-19, its causes, its efficacy, and the efficacy of vaccines throughout our communities. We must drive efforts to combat vaccine hesitancy and urge, as I said, people to be vaccinated and go through their booster shots as they are going to become more and more available. Our seventh task is to strengthen international solidarity. ANC members and structures should undertake campaigns to express solidarity with oppressed people in Western Sahara, in Palestine, in Cuba, and across the world in line with our values of respect for human rights, social justice, and equality. Now, this is also important, comrades. If we remember the various pillars of our struggle, the international pillar was so important because it was people from other countries and other lands who mounted campaigns against apartheid, who demonstrated support for us without even knowing us, without even having met us. And that was effective in bringing apartheid to its knees. And so we call upon members of and structures of the ANC, let us embark on these campaigns. The people of Palestine, the people of Sahrawi must see us as the African National Congress campaigning for their rights, for their self-determination, as though what is happening to them is happening to us. This is the culture of the African National Congress. Many thousands of South African families have lost loved ones to COVID-19 over the past year. Our own movement has lost many activists. We've lost many veterans and stalwarts due to COVID-19. We extend our sincerest condolences to their families and friends. The movement recalls and honors the immeasurable contribution that many of those who have departed have made. And I just cite the most recent because he is the most recent that we lost, and that was the immeasurable contribution made by the late Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu in the fight for our liberation and since the advent of democracy. We honor him, we applaud his legacy, and we thank him for what he contributed. Archbishop Tutu was with us on the streets. He gave us support during the darkest days of apartheid and continued to serve as a moral compass for our young democracy. His legacy must be a shining example, urging all South Africans to be more humane, to always be principled and work ceaselessly to achieve a better life for all. We must draw courage and inspiration for the lives of this giant and many other giants that have departed, stalwarts and veterans of our movement, on the work for unity and solidarity that they perform. Guided by the priorities and the tasks we have identified for the year ahead, the National Executive Committee has declared 2022 as the year of unity, renewal, to defend and advance South Africa's democratic gain. That is our theme for this year. Now, let me end by saying the tasks that have been identified are the tasks, comrades, which if we all participate in, if all our structures, yes, the ANC Women's League, the ANC Youth League, the ANC Veterans League, our provinces, our regions, and all our structures, if we all participate in all and make sure that we execute this task, the ANC will be completely renewed and repositioned and rebuilt without any doubt. And these tasks are achievable. These are tasks that we can embark on. On the birthday of the African National Congress, this is the day when all of us must recommit ourselves throughout the length and the breadth of the country and say we are recommitting ourselves to the African National Congress, and we are going to execute all these tasks, because it is when the ANC executes these tasks that we reposition our country as well. It is when the ANC embarks on all these tasks that South Africa begins to be turned around, and the challenges that our country is facing are then addressed. And it is only the African National Congress that can execute the task of turning South Africa around. I know of no other organization. Those that go around talking about ANC liability to the country, I must continue to say the African National Congress is known and seen by our people as the only organization that can take South Africa forward. And that is exactly what we are going to do as we execute all these tasks. Now, Babanchi Barino ANC is on its knees. Barino ANC afela. Let me say today, the ANC lives, the ANC leads, the ANC will continue to live, and the ANC will continue to lead. Warata kapo aurati. Let me end, comrades, by thanking our leadership here in Limpopo for the arrangements they have put in place for January 8. We applaud our province, our various regions, for Mushumobutsi, which you put in place. This is really one of the outstanding January 8th celebrations, even under COVID conditions. I also want to thank the organizing committee headed by the Treasurer General, working together with Comrade Senzo, for Comrade Nomvula, for all the wonderful arrangements they have made to get us here. La ANC na chelete ANC, they were able to put together a budget that has enabled us to have this January 8th. Raleboha TG, Raleboha Comrade Senzo, Raleboha Comrade Nomvula for all the wonderful work. Lastly, I want to thank the staff of the African National Congress for their unwavering commitment as they have worked under very difficult and trying conditions. And I want to say to the staff of the ANC, we apologize for all the difficulties, the anguish, the pain that you've had to go through because of the challenges that we have faced. Today, the National Executive Committee wants to thank you. We want to applaud you that even as you have faced all these difficulties, you continued to serve your organization. And I want to say we are in the process of addressing your challenges, and we will continue to do so. So, comrades, let us go forth and rebuild our movement. Let us go forth and implement the tasks that have been put forward by the National Executive Committee. Kamansu ao, rebusa ANC busa, retwara ANC twara, twelapeli ANC twelapeli, khula ANC khula. Very happy birthday, African National Congress. Ke a leboga.
Amandla, Rialewa President, Rialewa President, Rialewa Ngamanda. Do you understand? Rialewa Ngamanda. Okay. Let's have the birthday cake of the ANC. We're folding up now. Emva koko asina toast. Sizakwenza umsebenzi obaluleke kakhulu. Emva ikude yona kum. Ikude yona kum. Okay, let's go and cut the cake for the birthday. 110 years. Others ask us, what are we celebrating? There are problems here, there are problems there. We are celebrating a milestone of becoming 110 years old. That is what we are celebrating. Okay, the cake is coming in. So we have a birthday cake. We're celebrating 110 of existence. So I've had questions by many of our friends. What are you celebrating? We're celebrating a milestone of 110 years. The one again for Gogo, sizawucula sidayive. Mna ndizawubona nje ingoma nje kaMakhadzi ndihambe emva koko.
We're going to have the president, the deputy president, our TG, and the national chair cutting the cake together with the veterans from Limpopo and across the province, across the country, surrounded by the young members of the Young Women's Desk. Pambili mayanga pambili. Happy birthday, ANC, happy birthday. Thank you very much. The president has already already cut the cake. It's going to be handed over to an NGO here in Polokwane. The next thing, we are inviting the officials of the ANC. We are not toasting champagne, but they are going to release white doves as a symbol of peace and unity. We need that knife, please. Oh, Gabi. We're going to have the beds, the 6 doves. We're inviting the chair of the province, the president, the deputy president, the TG, the national chair. They are going to release the peace doves as a symbol for peace and unity. Barbara, let them bring them forward. Can we invite the president of the ANC Women's League, Comrade Batabile, to come and to take the 6th dove, celebrating the life and times of the first president of the ANC Women's League, Umamu Lilian Ngoyi. They now have them. D6. We're going to count up to 3. 1, 2, 3. Amandla. Hi hule ANC, hi hule. Hi kopane ANC, hi kopane. Viva President Ramaphosa, viva. Long live the ANC, long live. Let's welcome Makazi on the stage. Comrade Tandi.
One, two.
Amandla.
1, 2.
Happy birthday, ANC. Happy birthday. Let's count to 5 for Makazi to come and dance for the president. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Makazi, can you come and dance with the leadership?
Hey, Mr. Brown, you wanna make something?
Machioto mamusa batomenga Dari ngwawo pera mure Bachito mamusa batemenga Dari ngwawo pera mure Wangawi Bachito mamusa batomenga Nari lemele lihelile Bachito mamusa batomenga Bikobra ribarote Lemele Bachi presa wangwa ba presa namba Darumawa kwa murena wanga we Bachi kama musa batome namba Darumawa kwa murena wanga we Bachi presa wangwa ba presa namba Karimba, let's go! 1, 2, let's go! Let's go! Dari ngwawo fela morena wanga we. Ba tshi thoma musa ba thome nga nne. Ka re ke a kwa ka monkgo ke a kwa. Ho nkga dikuku. Ha re bone le tlo bona ka morao. Ha tla jaefa ka morao go dumeletse batho. Awe.
Amandla. Can we have Master KG also to come and render an item? Are you ready for Master KG? Mr. Jerusalem, can you come also and render? We also have got our bikers from the province of Limpopo who are here to entertain us. Master KG, are you ready? Halala, our bikers, halala. Happy birthday, ANC, happy birthday. Long live President Cyril Ramaphosa, long live. Master KG, please. He's here. Can we have Makazi coming back to sing the Hungadi Gugu song?
Hosa, 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 hosa. Hey. Halala, see, halala. Hosa. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Let's go. Ra-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta. Are you ready? Ra-ta-ta. Let's go, let's go. Ra-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta. Are you ready? Let's go sing. 1, 2, 3, together. Happy birthday, ANC. Happy birthday. Are you ready? Let's go. Wasiwa mubilono. Hey. Ukari kebere sakwe. Ripila waya waya. Wasiwa mkifagama. Wasiwa mubilono. Ukari kebere sakwe. Ripila waya waya. Wasiwa mkifagama. Hey. Wasiwa mubilono. Ukari
Master KG. Now it's time for King Munada. Diabua Limpopo, Diabua. Hashtag, you must say Limpopo rocks. Hashtag. King Munada, over to you. All of them are here to entertain us for the whole day. But because of the cake cutting ceremony, we have requested them to perform one song each. Are we together? Kim Munada, over to you.
Hey, what's the matter? Hi. Hey. Makwela Munada. Iyo. Hey. Let's see more. Listen. Where's that? Hey. Yeah. Hey. Sure. Yeah. Hey. Hey. One, two, three, four. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. Ay, 1 liter soso. 1 liter soso. Hey, 1 liter soso. Ay, 1 liter soso. Yeah. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. Give kunyaga kamatai. 1 liter soso. 1 liter soso. Hey, 1 liter soso. Yeah, 1 liter soso. Anabelo wile, ay, anabelo wile, Mauro wile, ay, Mauro wile, biluya, yeah, anabelo wile, ay, anabelo wile, Mauro wile, biluya, say what? Mauro wile, biluya. Hey, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara. Agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara. Yeah, anabe ale wile, anabe ale wile, Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya. Hey, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara. Agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara, agi pushes karagara. Say what? Sorry agi pushes karagara. Lenna benkunya kagamar, lenna benkunya kagamar, lenna benkunya ga, ya lenna benkunya kagamar. Ay, 1 liter soso, 1 liter soso. Hey, 1 liter soso. Hey, 1 liter. Agare lenna benkunya ga. Say 1, 2, 3, 4. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Ay, 1 liter soso. 1 liter soso. Sure. 1 liter soso. Sure. 1 liter soso. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Lenna benkunya gagamada. Anabiale uwile, anabiale uwile, anabiale uwile. Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya. Hey, agi pushes karagara, sorry agi pushes karagara, agi pushes karagara. Hey, lenna agi pushes karagara. Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya, Mauro wile biluya, Hallelujah. Hey, Hagi pushes Karagara. Linnagi pushes Karagara. Harita Mairina. Hey.
Thank you, King Munadar Metele Mazoho. Bekeli beke, President Ramaphosa bekeli beke. I rule ANC, I rule. Comrades, we are going to call onto the stage for Makazi to come back and sing Hunkadi Kuku song for the president. Makazi, let's count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Makazi!
What's someone with DJ call me?
Sure. What's up? Sure. Waga munkoyagwa. Unkari kuku. Waga munkoyagwa. Unkari kuku. Waga munkoyagwa. Unkari kuku. Waga munkoyagwa. Ukari batu bakore yabo. Hawa. What's up? Matoho. Dari hurengeli wabasazi first. Bugani. DJ. Ayahe makasi hey. Dari ndana arati kati mapena. Jafana. DJ. Sure. Chesa Prispenza. pia. Hakina. Ay 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 and fear hey. Hakina yaureka pia. Swanda. 1, 2. Urengeli wa basazi pesa. Kamwe barengeleza mayelo pole. Urengeli wa basazi pesa. Kamwe barengeleza mayelo pole. Kamwe barengeleza ma black beauty. Barengeleza ma black beauty. Kamwe barengeleza mayelo pole. Akene queen. Let's go, Costa. Carry chest, my black and beauty. Ufunesiwa, para ufunesiwa my yellow. Carry chest, my yellow pole. Atimapi, carry chest, my black and beauty. Ufunesiwa my yellow pole. Para ufunesiwa my yellow pole. Celebratory, let's go. Aya bakwemba bone. Let's go. Banabanga batorenga. Pia banabanga batorenga. Banabanga batorenga. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chisora. Dice. Dare haka matorokisi haka. Chitimera chia haka matorokisi. DJ, let's go. Sure. Life is too short. Life is too short. Life is too short. What's the one? 1, 2, shake. DJ, let's go. What's the weather? Oh, no. Oh, no. Makasi. Chifuna na biru andi to wanafa kwata wena sure Karizangasa muchalo ziko kanama. Thank you, Mr. DJ. Ah oui, sure.
Thank you, Makazi. Are you ready for DJ Complexion? Are you ready for DJ Complexion? Aritza Maerona. Aritza Maerona. DJ Complexion. Over to you. Oh, Benny Maingani is in the house. ready for Benny Mainganyi?
1, 2.
Comrade Benny, come and entertain our people. Let's count from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Benny Mainganyi.
1, 2.